Dimma, I guess, as good as that first quarter was, and good to get the win, but there must be still some work-ons for you coming out of that.
Oh, there always is. We're a coach. Yeah. So, look, the game in itself, our 80% is very good. Our 20% needs work, if that makes sense. When we're in that 20% mode, we have too many errors that actually just cost us goals. Like, you know, I thought our dominant was as good as it was. Like, we should have been 10 goals up, I think, at three-quarter time, personally. And unfortunately, when you let an experienced side such as Melbourne, they've got a really good midfield, really smart players, they can get a run on, and that's what happened in the end. And we just didn't play. We just didn't play our style of game. We sort of just let the game unfold the way it did, and it was a disappointing finish. But game of AFL footy is pretty tough. You've got to celebrate the wins. They're hard to come by, so we'll acknowledge that we won the game, but we've got some work-ons, absolutely.
Hard for you to get in the head of the players probably, but do you think they took the foot off the gas?
Well, you'd like to think not, but once again, the psyche is something that we'll certainly speak about. And, you know, it's the good to great stuff we're after. We're a good side. Great sides, that doesn't happen. Like, you don't give up 5 goals, 6 in the last quarter from 11 entries or 12 entries or whatever it was. And, you know, many people look at our defence, but the thing is, a lot of it come off the back of our errors, our cough-ups, our mistakes with the ball, understanding what is required right here, right now. But the important thing is we got the win. The next most important thing is the growth that comes from that last quarter, because, you know, we let a side back in the game we firmly had control of.
What do you think of the performance of Ben King after the criticism during the week?
Yeah, I thought it was good. You know, once again, he took some really strong marks, led really strongly. Thought our ball use, something we've spoken about over a number of weeks, I thought was improved inside 50, and he probably left a couple of goals on the table. I'm not sure I've seen Ben kick a worse one than that one that he kicked on the full, but I was really pleased for him. He works incredibly hard, this kid, and we've got to understand that, I keep saying this, he's a mature player that is playing with a couple of other young key forwards that sometimes the opposition can drag off. So I thought Ben played really well, but I also thought Ethan and Jed took a step forward for us today as well, which is also pretty cool.
I know you've said you didn't kick many goals in your AFL career, but when it comes
12.
to 12. But when it comes to that inaccuracy in front of goal, is that...
Yeah.
What do you take away from a game like today, whereas you say you could have kicked 10 goals in that first quarter and almost put the game to bed?
Yeah, and that's probably the thing. And, you know, it's funny, we're sort of laughing because, you know, me and Fags are a little bit from the old school. Sometimes the more work you do on something doesn't necessarily guarantee a result. Sometimes it's just having the confidence of kicking that first goal and things flow from that. So, you know, we do enough goal kicking. You'd always like to think you can do more, but I think the vast majority of our players are reasonably good shots. Sometimes luck just deserts you, and unfortunately it's probably come across most of our forwards in the last couple of weeks. So they'll get better, they'll ride the wave and eventually get back on and get it back on track.
There were a couple of times there when Melbourne fought back early in that third quarter. I think they pulled it back to about 3 goals. Then Matt Rowell really stepped up. How important was he during that third quarter to build that buffer again? Yeah,
it was enormous. I thought his contest work was second to none today. You know, his ability to get in contest and then out. There's been an area that he's worked with Sean Grigg, his midfield coach, about trying to improve that aspect of his game, because his inside game's as good as I've seen, but his ability to get from in to out now has really, really improved. You know, his use of hands to stay involved in the chain, and his kicking inside 50, I think, has become. I think he's had the most. From what I can recall, you know, his ability to hit that kick inside 50 has really improved as well. So he's getting forward entries or forward half disposals, which is really important also.
That pressure forward 50 role, Connor Budrick, who's obviously made his name as a bit of a back pocket, and now you saw Nick Holman drop from the side this week. That spot seems to be up for grabs a little bit. What do you think of Connor's performance today?
Yeah, well, that role for us is contest, pressure and craft. You know, we look at our skill matrix of what Connor has got. He's got those traits. So we've thought about it for a period of time, and we thought we'd pull the lever. You know, he's been playing down back, he's played wing. We sort of like his traits and what he brings to the side, so we've probably given him an opportunity. Nick Holman's a very important player for us, don't get me wrong, but we thought we'd give this kid an opportunity to see what he can bring. And he's growing into the role. You know, kicked a nice goal today, did some nice things inside 50. Always going to be improvement, but he brings pressure, he brings contest, and the craft stuff will certainly improve over the course of the remaining parts of the year.
Have you got any concerns for Braden over the incident with Petty?
Oh, look, I hope Petty's okay. Obviously, he went off with what I think is concussion, but I think it was sound technique. You know, I think the harsh reality of our game is the technique that Braden used is what we encourage. You know, unfortunately, Harrison has sort of gone forward with his head. Like the harsh reality is, if we've got two blokes doing that technique, we've got two players that are hurt. So, look, once again, I hope he's okay, and I'm sure he will be, but we teach our player that the technique, and look, accidents are going to happen in AFL. He made a play on the ball. I thought he got his hands on the ball at the same time. I don't think he has a case to answer.
On the spot fires that flared up in that second quarter,
Yeah.
Stephen May and,
Yeah.
and Ben King, and yours is a developing side that's shown growth in terms of the style of football they're playing and where they're on the ladder. Do you talk to them about managing those situations at all? Or do you trust in your leaders to handle
I was
that?
screaming at the phone, especially when we got a shot for goal. I thought he was stiff not to get a 50, to be perfectly honest. He did mark the ball, but you know, that's the thing. It's a side that settles best after those moments. It's great to exert some physicality, and we love that, and standing up for teammates. It's really important for the fabric of a side, but then it's also the side that settles quickest after that. I can't remember in what quarter it was, to be honest, but I thought we did it okay. But once again, it's about those little spot fires, about maintaining the right type of aggression at the right time.
Is that a sign of like maturity as well in the group in terms of fact, not necessarily being tough and standing up for your mates, but also how you can kind of park it afterwards and get back to the game?
I think so, and that's what, you know, the very best sides do that. They exert physicality when they need to, and they absorb it when they have to. And that's two things I think we're working our way through now. I thought it, you know, towards the back end of the game, Melbourne's pressure upped, and we were probably still trying to get that ball out and through when we just had to take a stoppage. So we'll learn some lessons from that. And they're that 20% that I spoke about, where we probably gave up a couple of those cough-ups that led to, you know, goals one-on-one versus, you know, I thought Jake Melcham was unbelievable today. Best player on the ground by far for mine.
Bailey Humphrey's shoulder all good?
Yeah, look, he's just had a couple of knocks on it the last couple of weeks, so it's precautionary to take him off. It was a bit flat, actually, that we took him off, but he's such a competitive and combative player that, you know, we're glad to give Secco an opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,